And joining me now, Nick Akerman, former assistant special Watergate prosecutor, now an MSNBC legal analyst. First time that we've heard anything from anyone on the Mueller team.
Oh, that's right. And I can identify with this. This is exactly how we felt the night Cox was fired. When we walked out, I walked out with papers underneath my, clothing, figuring that if this was going to be the end of the investigation, that I would be talking to the press, which I never did during the entire time I was involved in that prosecution. But I can understand where they're coming from. This has all been misconstrued, and it's been done.
Well, we don't know that, right? I mean,
well, we do. We can just take the obstruction of justice.
Right.
He just has it dead wrong on what an obstruction of justice is. He says it has to be a judicial proceeding. Not true. An FBI investigation can be the subject of an obstruction.
Right.
The idea of corrupt intent is something, you can't fathom. Well, there's a charge that the Department of Justice provides in every obstruction case to the courts that they give in an obstruction case. So either he just doesn't understand the law or he's trying to bend it in a way that helps Trump.
So you think your reading of that Barr letter, you have a more jaundiced view of Barr's performance thus far?
I do. And up to that point,
you think he's not been acting in good faith?
No, not at all. Not in good faith. Up to that point, I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. I thought he was following it by the book. But once you look at that letter and you come up with that crazy interpretation he has of obstruction of justice, which is just dead wrong under the law, and the fact that he really puts it out there as a playbook for Trump to go out and claim exoneration is absurd. And if nothing else, the Congress has to have the complete report. One, because you have to assume that Mueller was going by a beyond a reasonable doubt standard. But the Congress, in deciding impeachment, doesn't have to look at a reasonable doubt or a preponderance of the evidence. They can look at what the evidence is and decide based on that whether it's an impeachable offense.
So you think the fight that I just talked to Congresswoman Val Demings, right? So the fight they're having now is they have enabled Jerry Nadler with subpoena power on a party line vote today. He can then subpoena the report, and what he wants is the report. He wants the underlying material, but he wants the full report with no redactions turned over to Congress. You think that's a reasonable,
absolutely, 100%, and they ought to go in front of a judge and get that ordered.
You think they would win in court on that?
I think they would, because this is of such important public knowledge. You just have to have this. It's not only for impeachment purposes. It's also because there are probably a lot of things, once we read the report, that are just bad, but they're not criminal. And so one of the questions is, should they be criminal? Should it be that a presidential campaign is approached by the Russians to offer help, and you just sit there and you don't call the FBI?
Right.
Normally that would be something known as imprisoning a felony or misprison of a felony, which nobody ever charges. But there could be a number of items here, including, changes to the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, the criminal statute that involves hacking. It's not a crime to possess stolen computer data. It is in New York State, but not in the federal system. So there are a number of things that
so you mean for legislatively, you should have the full record.
Absolutely. And also, what are the lessons we've learned? And to look at all of those and decide what changes need to be made.
Do you interpret this? And again, I don't know. And I should say that it says the team was 19 lawyers, 40 FBI agents, and other personnel. It's specific about some of them, right? So this is not all of them. They spoke to some of them. And it's saying they're associates. So we don't know if they're talking directly or that they've interviewed friends. Do you view the existence of this article as functionally a warning to Barr?
Oh, I think so. I think it's going to come out. Look at how many people were involved in this investigation that know what the truth is. He is really playing with fire here. There's only so much you can do as a political hack and get away with it. He's not going to get away with it, because sooner or later, that entire report is going to come out. A judge is going to order it. It only takes a judge to go in and say, look, grand jury secrecy, maybe a couple things with privacy, maybe we'll do a couple redactions, maybe there's some stuff that's classified, but the bulk, 99% of that report ought to be released.
What do you see as the time frame here? I guess the argument that Barr's been making is this is a process they're going through. They're doing it judiciously, and they're going to make it public. They need to go through it first. Does this increase the pressure, as I asked Frank Figliuzzi?
I would certainly think it would increase the pressure, and this is just a slow roll. The whole point behind this is to try and get out the statement that, Trump has been exonerated, didn't do anything wrong, and so he can go out with this PR program that he's been involved in. That's what it's all about. And so the longer you can delay that, the more Trump can go out and go to his rallies and talk about how he's so innocent. Which, you know, it may be that he didn't commit a federal crime.
Yeah.
But he may have done some other things that don't look so good.
Again, as I keep saying, there also may be exculpatory information inside the report. I mean, there may be previously undisclosed exculpatory information inside
Or
the
undisclosed, inculpatory
exactly.
information.
Whatever it is, though,
Right.
it remains the case that we need to see all of it.
Need to see it.
As soon
Absolutely.
as humanly possible. Nick Akerman, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.